There's a concerted effort on the part of influential people at the cable network that we at All In call Trump TV right now to peddle dangerous misinformation about the coronavirus. Call it coronavirus trutherism. And the question at issue is one whose answer should be obvious to everyone. Is this disease really as deadly as the vast majority of experts tell us it is, as we've all seen with our own eyes? Last night, one Trump TV host told his viewers that all those experts were wrong. We should lift the lockdowns because it is just not as deadly as we thought.
Just today, the San Francisco Bay Area announced it'll be extending its lockdown until the end of May. That's 5 weeks from now. What is the scientific justification for doing that? They didn't tell us because there is none. None. You may remember what they first told us back in February and March. They said, we have to take radical steps in order to, quote, flatten the curve. Well, 6 weeks later, we're happy to say that curve has been flattened, but it's likely not because of the lockdowns. The virus just isn't nearly as deadly as we thought it was.
Now, if you were thinking, wait, how can he say that the curve flattened not because of the lockdowns, not because of the wholly unprecedented society-wide shutdown? Well, you are right to ask that question. But Tucker Carlson based his claim in part on arguments from two doctors who own an urgent care center in Bakersfield, California. And they say their research found the coronavirus is basically no worse than the flu. He played a soundbite from one of them. Oh, and here they are last night on a different Trump TV show. Now, of course, most public health experts have dismissed these doctors' findings. According to the University of Washington biologist Dr. Carl Bergstrom, who specializes in infectious disease modeling, quote, they have used methods that are ludicrous to get results that are completely implausible. Two national physicians groups describe the doctor's claims as reckless. And added this, quote, as owners of local urgent care clinics, it appears these two individuals are releasing biased, non-peer-reviewed data to advance their personal financial interests without regard for the public's health. Their personal financial interests. Get this, even YouTube took down a video interview with these doctors for violating their community guidelines. The notion peddled by these doctors and wallpapered all over Trump TV is that this virus is not as deadly as we thought. That is simply not borne out by the evidence. Much of this nation has been locked down for weeks, and the virus has still killed nearly 60,000 Americans, roughly as many as we lost in the entire Vietnam War. And remember, that is almost certainly an undercount, because it is based, at least on part, on confirmed cases. The Washington Post just reported that just in the first few weeks of the epidemic alone, the United States recorded an estimated 15,400 excess deaths, nearly 2 times as many as were publicly attributed to COVID-19 at the time. In New York City alone, even with the lockdown and the streets empty and no one in the office buildings, the virus has killed at least 1 out of every 500 people in the city. Think about that. Think about walking down a crowded New York City street, how many people you would see. There is a reason that many of the employees of Fox News, which is based in New York, are working from home right now. At least someone there understands why it is important to continue to keep physical distance. Now, the question of precisely how long lockdown should last is a difficult one, and there is no single black and white scientific answer. But as for the scientific basis for lockdowns, well, the science is literally the germ theory of disease. It is the 19th century discovery that, yes, infectious diseases are caused by microscopic organisms, like bacteria and viruses that are transmitted through interpersonal contact. And that is a scientific basis for greatly reducing interpersonal contact. The whole point about shelter in place is that, yes, it's the most basic science we have. What we want to get to, is the more sophisticated scientific solutions, the ones that allow us to leave our homes. That's what we're trying to get to. That is what Americans, ordinary, everyday working Americans, have bought the time to do with their own sacrifices. And yet Tucker Carlson, who's been broadcasting in safe isolation, is telling you it's safe to go out. That's his message to you bus drivers and you people who work in meat processing facilities and you are providing elder care in a senior home or assisted living facility or a cashier at a grocery store or working in an Amazon warehouse. The cable news pundit wants you to get back out there because it's just not that deadly. But for all the faux populist ire being mounted by the conservative politics legacy case from La Jolla, Polling shows most Americans continue to believe that shelter in place is the right policy. In fact, more than 3 in 4 Americans who have lost work or lost pay from the virus still support stay-at-home measures. But here's the thing. If Tucker Carlson truly thinks people need to get back out there, he can help. Because right now, they need people in assisted living facilities that have been decimated by this. And they need people in meat and pork processing plants, too. They've lost a ton of people to this disease. So get in there if you think it's that bad. Go chop up some pork. At the beginning of this horrible period, the president, along with his lackeys and advisors and propagandists, they all minimized what was coming. They said it was just like a cold or the flu.
The coronavirus is the common cold, folks.
It's a virus like the flu.
The far more deadly, more lethal threat right now is not the coronavirus. It's the ordinary old flu.
I'm not afraid of the coronavirus, and no one else should be that afraid either.
This is a flu. This is like a flu.
And when told became too great, when the facts could no longer be ignored, many of these same people started taking the virus seriously. And yet now, after nearly 60,000 of our fellow Americans have been lost to this vicious virus, they are back to where they started, suggesting it's not that dangerous. And look, we all wish this wasn't as bad as it is. It would be wonderful if we could just have everyone go back to work and to school and not see a spike in infections. God, I wish that were the case. But that's just not how this appears to work. I mean, look, we're always learning. And maybe we're going to discover new techniques that do work. Heck, I am more than open to actual evidence about the best policy path forward in terms of opening and lockdowns. But the virus is as deadly as experts warned, and those we've lost to it are gone forever. A tidal wave of grief and trauma has been unleashed upon this nation, in large part because the president and his enablers would not listen. And no amount of cynical whataboutism or politically expedient wishful thinking or junk science is going to change that brutal fact.